Today is Thursday, July 2nd, 2020. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, folks. Also, today is the 56th anniversary of the signing of one of the most important civil rights legislations in American history. Also, the jobs report came out today. Donald Trump is claiming victory. Yeah, what about black male unemployment? White House has nothing to say about that. The House Armed Services Committee has voted to make the Pentagon rename Confederate named bases, even as Senate Republicans try to stop it. A Catholic priest has been suspended in Indiana for comparing Black Lives Matter activists to maggots. Also, black folks who are 45 to 54 years old are dying from COVID-19 at 7 times the rate of white Americans their age, according to a report from the Brookings Institution. Speaking of COVID-19, Herman Cain in the hospital with it. And just 21 hours ago, he was tweeting about why wearing masks is a bad idea. Researchers find high levels of discrimination against black and low-income renters in a new study out of Boston. And investors are calling on Nike, FedEx, and PepsiCo to cut ties with the Washington Redskins due to their name. Wait till we show you this black sheriff in Florida who literally has issued a threat to Black Lives Matter protesters. Plus, Maya Moore, a star WNBA player who sat out for a full year, was there when Jonathan Irons got released from prison on yesterday for a crime he did not commit. As we said, folks, it's a jam-packed show. It's time to bring the funk. Plus, today's also, we're going to celebrate the Crown Act. Tomorrow is the 1-year anniversary. We have a phenomenal lineup, including a special tribute by India Ari. All of that on Roland Martin Unfiltered. It's time to bring the funk. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, y'all. It's Roland Martin, Rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now. Martin!
All right, folks, non-farm payroll soared by 4.8 million in June. The unemployment rate fell to 11.1% as the U.S. continues to reopen after in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic. Now, Donald Trump took a victory lap at a news conference today, saying today's announcement proves that our economy is roaring back. And also, they touted black unemployment falling from 16.8% to 15.4%. But you might want to slow that down a little bit. Howard University economist Bill Spriggs, who's also, of course, the top economist with the AFL-CIO, put this tweet out. Not sure what Trump is crowing about to the black community. The unemployment rate for adult black men rose to 16.3%, its highest level in 9 years. When he took office, he inherited the lowest unemployment rate for black men any incoming president ever started their term with. Isn't it amazing what happens when you actually have the details? Joining us right now, Dr. Greg Carr, Chair, Department of Afro-American Studies at Howard University, Reese Colbert, Black Women's Views, and Erica Savage Wilson, host of the Savage Politics Podcast. Greg, I'll start with you. Again, I got a nice little cute email from Paris Denard, just crowing about these numbers. But then I responded to him and the White House. Do y'all have any comment about the unemployment rate going up for black men? No response.
Well, of course. I mean, Paris is doing his job. You don't get paid to do anything other than to promote Donald Trump, who didn't talk about the pandemic, the surge, who didn't talk about the 10,000 new cases in Florida today.
Greg, hold tight 1 second. Greg, do you have a fan on? We can barely hear you. There's a loud buzz. So let's do this here. I'm going to go to Reese. We're going to come back to Greg. You guys, take care of that loud buzz. We can barely hear Greg. Reese, go ahead. Your thoughts.
Yeah, I think that the COVID-19 pandemic has exposed the great systemic institutionalized racism that we have in our economy and in our country. And it's no surprise whatsoever that even as jobs are being added back, Black people are, and particularly Black men, are being left behind. So we have nothing to celebrate yet. These are not new jobs. These are jobs that were furloughed or that were shut down because of the pandemic, returning back to normalcy. But guess what? We have another shutdown coming down, or at least another scale back coming down. And so this is a temporary reprieve, but we also have the unemployment insurance, $600 a week that's going to be running out, that Mitch McConnell has signaled he has no interest in extending. So there are many, many more problems over the horizon, not just for Black men, but for the country in general.
Erica.
Yeah, and then we're also looking at reporting from places like Queens, New York, where folks who were impacted heavily by the coronavirus are having a most difficult time re-engaging the economy again. We're looking at where investments were and where they weren't placed. And then we're also looking at moratoriums expiring for people that are living in apartments and they're facing eviction. So there is a lot more work ahead. And even when we look at the Great Recession, which is something that we can kind of look back at that was most closely to a real issue, economic issue, we saw that Black people, Black men, Black women had the most difficult time of being able to restart being back into the economy again. So him celebrating is really par for the course. It's classic Donald Trump, and I don't think that anyone should expect anything more from him than what we saw today.
Greg. All right, we're trying to reconnect with Greg, and so we'll do that in just a second, trying to get his audio straight. Look, bottom line is this here: when you look at these economic numbers, they can play the game, but they have done an awful job when it comes to the coronavirus response. In fact, we're actually seeing how that is still impacting, because in Texas, Governor Greg Abbott, what he did was he opened the state. They were touting this whole deal. Now he issues an order today ordering everyone to wear masks. See, now had he listened to the Latina, Hidalgo, who's the county judge in Houston, he overrode her. He overrode Sylvester Turner, the mayor in Houston as well. And so the shameful actions of these Republican governors in Arizona, in Texas, and other states, they are going to cause, so all that progress with the shutdown, they're about to wipe it all out because they were so stupid trying to reopen states.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then even when we look at, there was the principal deputy director at one of the hospitals in Houston put out a front page ad around people telling them not to celebrate this Freedom Holiday weekend in the way that they would normally do that. You're talking about not someone who's an executive leader, but you're talking about someone within the business community that also has executive leadership within a hospital. In Texas right now, you're talking about ICU numbers that exceed 100% capacity. I've also seen and read reporting where doctors are saying that, listen, we have folks that are young and that would otherwise be healthy that have been impacted by COVID, and that if they're not intubated, that they will die. And so the 18 to 29 group, the 30 to 45, the 46 on up, this novel coronavirus is not discriminating. And what people would normally do, a lot of people would normally be, myself included, at Essence Fest this week. This is not a moment to try to recreate what won't happen. What we do need to do is we need to wash our hands thoroughly throughout the day. We need to wear a damn mask, socially distance, and sit our asses down somewhere so that we can, as a society, get a better handle onto what the CDC's principal deputy director is calling the coronavirus, a stealthier virus than what they expected, and essentially being out of control because of society behavior.
Reese, go ahead.
Yeah, I think people have to understand that just because it's not round-the-clock coverage on CNN or some of these other news stations, screaming about how big of a crisis it is, it's an even bigger crisis than when we started the shutdown. Just look at what's happening. We have D.L. Hughley, who was asymptomatic. He made a video last night saying that he's infected his coworkers and his son because he didn't realize that he had the virus. Nobody was wearing masks. Then you look at, I don't know if we're going to talk about it today, Roland, but Herman Cain is in the hospital right now, just 8 days.
Yeah, we're talking about that because, guys, show the photo, please. Herman Cain is now in the hospital for COVID-19. This was a photo when he was at the Trump rally just, a couple of weeks ago. It took place June 20th in Tulsa. Guys, show the photo, please. And it speaks to exactly what we're talking about. In fact, okay, I don't know why we have the photo. I sent it in. All right, fine, I'll pull it up. What's interesting is that he sent a tweet out. He sent a tweet out about 22 hours ago. A very arrogant tweet. Again, against wearing masks. And so this is the nonsense that you're seeing. You have Republicans out there who throw this stuff out there, who they've got people all riled up, like, this is wrong, this is unfair, we shouldn't have to be doing these things. Well, this is kind of what happens when you ignore the scientists. And again, Herman Cain, of all people, you old. Herman Cain is old, and he's sitting here. As a matter of fact, hopefully it comes up real quick. Here's a photo right here, okay, from the Trump rally. Okay, you see all these black Republicans sitting there. So guess what? Every single person in that photo, they better go to quarantine, including Paris Denard, who's right behind them. That's what happens when you don't listen to the experts and you sit there and run your ass out there talking all this trash about masks and not wearing masks, and you listen to a fool like Donald Trump. Here's the statement they put out. On Monday, June 29th, Herman Cain was informed that he had tested positive for COVID-19. By Wednesday, July 1st, Mr. Cain had developed symptoms serious enough that he required hospitalization. He spent the past night in the hospital, and as of today, Thursday, July 2nd, he is resting comfortably in an Atlanta area hospital. Mr. Cain did not require a respirator, and he is awake and alert. There's no way of knowing for sure how or where Mr. Cain contracted the coronavirus, but we do know he's a fighter who has beaten stage 4 cancer, blah, 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 blah. That's why you wear a mask. That's why you have safe distancing. That's why you don't sit next to people at rallies like the fools did there in Tulsa. That's why.
Yeah,
and we're
he
seeing
had a
more cases
pre-existing
of
health
people.
condition.
Hold on one second. Reese, then Erica. Go ahead, Reese. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, we're seeing more cases of entire families getting infected. It's anecdotal from what I've seen, but I'm just seeing a lot more cases where an entire family gets infected. They don't know exactly who who was the first person in the family to get the virus. And, this has a disproportionate impact in terms of the deadliness and the severity of this disease when it comes to Black people because of pre-existing conditions. So Herman Cain, as a stage 4 cancer survivor, should have known better. And you cannot follow a fool. Like some people say, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes, and COVID is not the prize that you want to win.
Go ahead, Erica.
Absolutely. And then looking at Tulsa County, they've seen an increase since the Klan rally of 15% in their COVID numbers. You're talking about well over 900 people since June 20th that have the virus. And that's what we know thus far. And so the irresponsibility and arrogance of other people should not be a life or death scenario for other folks. People have to exercise wisdom and wear a mask, social distance, and wash their hands often and stop gathering.
This is the thing right here, Greg. Real simple. Again, go to my iPad. This is a tweet sent out literally 24 hours ago. As he was commenting on this big Mount Rushmore Independence Day event Trump has been touting, in the South Dakota governor, we will not be social distancing. This is what Herman Cain wrote. Masks will not be mandatory for the event, which will be attended by President Trump. People are fed up, and you're in the hospital with coronavirus. That's dumb.
The Black Hills are sacred in South Dakota, and shout out to the Dakota Sioux who have said you're not welcome on our territory. And Herman Cain would do well to revisit his old slogan when he was running for president, 999, except not the number 9, maybe 9 as in German. No, Herman. No, brother. Now you are in the hospital because you were one of those rent-a-Negroes that showed up out there in Tulsa. I mean, at some point, we have to decide whether or not we are going to protect the lives of human beings or play politics until people literally die. I mean, the governor of Florida now trying to close stuff. 10,000 people in the last day have shown up, tested for COVID. In Texas, the lieutenant governor has lost his entire mind. And now Herman Cain thinks that somehow scoring political points is more important. When, in fact, even there in Texas, you saw what happened with Mike Pence in that church. The choir singing behind him. Several of those people had contracted COVID, and they up there singing away with no masks, even as the vice president has his mask on. I mean, you know, at some point, this thing has to really come down to whether or not we're going to stand on the side of protecting people's lives, or we're going to continue to abet this type of political foolishness.
Folks, according to the Brookings Institution, Black Americans, specifically between the ages of 45 to 54, are dying 7 times the rate of white Americans who are the same age. For ages 45 to 54, the death rate per 100,000 is 28 for blacks, 24 for Latinos, and 4 for whites. For ages 55 to 64, it is 76 per 100,000 for blacks, 60 for Latinos, and 13 for whites. For ages 65 to 74, it is 196 for blacks, 135 for Latinos, and 38 for whites. So for ages 75 to 84, it is 443 for blacks, 290 for Latinos, and 120 for whites. For 85 and over, 880 for blacks, 573 for Latinos, 436 for whites. In every age category, black people are dying at a higher rate of coronavirus than anybody else. So listen up. Stop listening to these crazy white folks, if you're black, talking about coronavirus, because you are likely to, if you're black, to die at a higher rate. So wear a damn mask, stop being stupid, wash your hands, and I'm getting all kind of reports from black people. I was talking today to Dr. Ebony Jade Hilton. She was in her home state of South Carolina, and she was telling me these black people are not wearing their mask. Look, if these other folk want to kill themselves, fine. But the reality is that's their business. But black people, we are getting hit harder than anybody else with this. Don't listen to those fools. Don't listen to them fools on Fox News. Don't listen to any of them, and wear a mask. If you get it because you chose not to wear a mask, that's because you were stupid as hell, and you should have listened to common sense trying to explain to you what in the hell is going on. Sorry, I put it just like it need to be put, because somebody got to say it the way it's supposed to be said. All right, folks, let's go to our next story, and that is you want to talk about stuck on stupid. The House Armed Services Committee, they've approved an amendment in the defense policy bill that requires the Pentagon to rename all Confederate named bases and other properties within a year. This committee vote comes after Donald Trump threatened via Twitter to veto the defense authorization bill if it includes the requirement to rename the bases. Now, over in the House, in the Senate, Josh Cawley of Missouri, he actually tried to strip it from the bill. The senator said no. But what's crazy to me, Greg, Senator Tim Scott actually gave an interview where he said that we should have a study as to how these bases somehow got named after Confederate generals. We don't need no damn study. We know exactly how they were named. And who cares how and why they were named? We know what the real deal is. Take them damn names off.
Joseph Rainey, Robert Smalls, just 2 of the many incredible black elected officials, congressmen, state legislators, local elected officials that came out of the Civil War and into Reconstruction. Tim Scott is an embarrassment to every person of African descent in the state of South Carolina who struggled during Reconstruction, who fought their way out of enslavement, and everyone since, from Septima Clark all the way through to the current members of the United States Congress in which he serves from South Carolina. At some point, brother, you have to decide whether or not, forget the right or wrong side of history, you have to decide before your head hits the pillow every night whether you can stand defending traitors not only to the United States of America, but more important, people who, if they had had their way, you wouldn't be in the United States Senate. You'd have your shirt off, chopping indigo or cotton or rice in a rice paddy in your native state of South Carolina. Not only is that indefensible, I understand Josh Hartley. I understand Hartley from Missouri. I understand Hartley, an unreconstructed white nationalist, who is saying, well, why don't we listen to military families and why don't we have public hearings? But when Tim Scott says it, this goes beyond politics, brother. Now you are on the opposite side of your race, and that's indefensible.
Simple as that. Simple as that. Folks, again, you're seeing what's happening here. Now you talk about pressure that's being applied as well. That is, a number of companies, a number of investors representing $620 billion have said to the Washington Redskins, take that name off of the team. Well, guess what? This just in, the folks at FedEx, the ones who pay the field rights, stadium rights name, they issued this statement. Go to my iPad. FedEx has asked the Washington Redskins to change its name. Here's the statement. We have communicated to the team in Washington our request, that they change the team name. Reese, I keep trying to tell people, money talks. And as Richard Pryor said in Car Wash, bullshit walks.
Bullshit walks. Exactly. That is how you have to hit it. We live in a capitalist society, for better or for worse. The better part of it is how we can apply pressure to these companies that won't do it out of altruism, that don't want to do it out of being on the side of ethics and morality and decency. That's where the money talks and the bullshit walks. And at the end of the day, these companies are seeing that to be corporate, the whole notion of corporate responsibility is a thing that they have to be much more conscientious about, and they have to be a lot more consistent about, in terms of not just saying these things, but actually putting their money where their mouth is. And so this is really incredible pressure that's being put on Snyder, and he's going to have to make the decision if he's going to side with white supremacy, if he's going to side against the long-standing demands from the Native American community to change this just racist name and do the right thing.
Erica, why this is huge, 87 investment firms and shareholders worth a combined $620 billion. They didn't send letters to the Redskins. They sent letters to Nike, FedEx, and PepsiCo saying, cut ties. Those companies are afraid of those investors pulling their money out of their stock. That's why FedEx sent that letter.
Yep, and we're in a great moment for letters like those to be fired off. People are now understanding the moment that we're in, and that the incredible public pressure is really being felt, not just in those big corporations, but for those that really do help to kind of prop those up. And if I could just go back to the Pentagon piece to kind of thread it all in, where we're talking about renaming these bases, specifically those 10 bases, Army bases that are named after Confederate generals, treasonous folks, is that also the Pentagon is talking about that there needs to be an advisory panel, that not the Pentagon, but there is also within that provision that the Pentagon actually report out in 90 days how they're moving through that process, and then also creating an advisory panel. We're looking at the military being about almost 50% Black, and then we're also looking at that less than 1% of the actual nation is in the military. When we think about the moment that we're in for incredible public pressure, that we're seeing it not only with the renaming of these bases, but then we're also seeing with this whole Washington Redskin business that has been going on for decades. This is really a moment where we're going to be able to see where people are standing in their hearts. For Dan Snyder to say that they're not really offending the Native American community, and then actually, sing out the words of the song, it is offensive to the Native American and indigenous population. And so people are going to have to make not just decisions for their dollars, but historical decisions as well.
Real simple, Greg. Money talks. The reason you're seeing the changes in the 5.5 weeks after the death of George Floyd is because people begin to press the money levers. And that's what I keep saying. In fact, I've been making the arguments to other people. They keep saying, well, how can we change the VC culture when it comes to investment? I said, no. What you do is you have you have the VCs at the top. They're the ones who are sitting here investing in all these companies. But where are they getting their money from? They're getting their money from these pension funds. Well, there are money managers who control these pension funds. So now you have to then ask, okay, well, where are they getting the money from? From public workers. The largest percentage of Black wealth in America rests in the hands of public workers. And this is what I have been saying. And I need everybody who's watching me, if you are Black and you are a city, a county, a state, a federal worker, if you work for a school district, it doesn't matter. If you're a public worker, your pension dollars, your pension, your money is being pulled together, Greg, as a collective. And then those pension funds are the largest investors in Wall Street. So if you want to change Wall Street, if you want to change how venture capitalism look, if you want to change how those white-led investment firms look, all that needs to happen is these Black public workers need to rise up and say, who is the investment fund controlling our money? Where are your Black partners? What the companies you're investing in, where are their Black board members and Black senior execs? if you don't change your policies, we're not going to invest in your companies. That will change the entire structure, Greg.
That's exactly right, Roland. And it's clear that business people can count. And as you said, they're following the money. And the irony is that even as we see the attack on public unions in this country, which has spanned the last several generations, we see whether it be Mark Zuckerberg at Facebook or whether it be Snyder soon with this Washington football club, they are looking ahead and trying to gauge the momentum of this general strike that's in the street. Even as we need to organize better to express ourselves, the simple fact of the matter is that these companies are realizing that their consumer base is increasingly non-white. You have another element of whites who are now saying Black Lives Matter and may be inclined to spend their dollars elsewhere. And as you said, when you see the rates at which people are getting sick and dying with COVID-19, we know we're essential personnel. We know all the other factors. But one of the factors that the Brookings report reveals as well is that the younger this country is, the more non-white it is. We're not going to be talking about minorities in the same way in the next 20 years. And so as a result, these companies are trying to get ahead of the thing. And when it comes to the Washington Football Club, the DC, the mayor, the city council made it very clear several years ago when they're trying to angle for a new stadium in the district. You're not coming back into the district until you do something about that name.
Right. And first of all, the reason they even got the first black player they got because the head of the Department of Interior told that racist owner, oh, we own the land your stadium is on. You're going to go get you a black ball player. Folks, I do want to talk about this here. Today, of course, in 1964, the Civil Rights Act was signed, obviously one of the most momentous laws in American history. The reason I'm stating that is because you're seeing what happens today as a result of that in terms of what is happening. This study out of Boston shows how we are still being impacted. Of course, this dealt with public accommodations, not housing. But this new study from Suffolk University Law School finds that landlords and agents in Greater Boston are discriminating against black renters and those with vouchers for Section 8 housing. They have been illegally shutting out qualified renters. The discrimination testing study showed the majority of real estate brokers show black testers half the number of apartments than white testers. The testing also revealed a high level of discrimination against people that have Section 8 housing vouchers, regardless of race. Even though here we are today, on July 2nd, after this bill was signed in 1964, Reese, the reality is to white folks in America, here is more of your evidence of what it means to be black in America.
Absolutely. I mean, if you're a realtor, then your incentive should be to get the stuff rented, not necessarily to try to steer white people or black people into certain areas. But that is how this white supremacy is perpetuated. It's institutional to a certain degree, but it's also perpetuated by people who are doing this work every single day and making these decisions, whether they're conscientiously making these decisions or not. It's still having the same impact of being discriminatory. And it's really appalling because one of the things that they talked about is that people expect this kind of discrimination. And that's just what's really so disgusting about it, is that black people already know that they're going to be discriminated against when it comes to these things. And even with the advances we have in technology, with being able to screen these things online, having access to more information, we still see this discrimination persist.
Erica.
Right, and we saw the current occupant of the White House really demonstrate this back in 1973 when the Justice Department sued him, his father, Fred Trump, and Trump management for doing the very same thing. You had a tester because a black man wanted to rent a place out in Brooklyn. He talked with the super, and the super said it was already rented. When he reported it back, it was found out by a tester that went out that the very same thing that is coming up in this report was the very same thing that happened back in the 70s. And it was the reason that Donald Trump and his folks were sued. And then we saw the advent of the 80s of Ronald Reagan describing what was the welfare queen. And so then for the folks that are people who do have Section 8, kind of like the myth around people who are receiving those benefits is that they're irresponsible. They're taking up space. They're taking your money. When in essence, you're looking at that particular voucher is guaranteed money through the Federal Housing Authority. So we're really seeing par for the course. And so this is not something that is of surprise. That it is still happening is really just kind of what we've seen throughout history.
Greg, you had those black baseball players who talked about the racism they faced in Boston. All these white folks living in denial. Another example. Exhibit 1336.
Exactly, brother. And it's interesting because on this anniversary of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, we realize that the black struggle has laid the foundation for every other equity victory in this society. 2 weeks ago in the Bostock versus Clayton County case, that was the case where the Supreme Court 2 weeks ago said that the definition of gender or sex includes gender. That was Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, as you said many times on this show. But at the same time, when we deal with this question of housing, we're facing a looming housing catastrophe. Yes, people are forced off from evicting folks, landlords. However, they're still filing eviction notices with the courts. And so if people are displaced from their homes, then this discrimination by race takes on an added dimension of catastrophe in the fall of this year. Yep. We're facing a ticking time bomb, even as other folks have used Title VII and other elements of the Civil Rights Act of 64 to advance causes that we all support. But never forget, black people are at the foundation of that discrimination.
Folks, so Black Lives Matter is scaring the hell out of these white folks. A suburban Indianapolis Catholic priest has been suspended from public ministry because he decided that comparing the Black Lives Matter movement to maggots and parasites in a recent online church bulletin was okay. Reverend Theodore Rothrock of St. Elizabeth Seton Catholic Church in Carmel, Indiana, wrote this: "The only lives that matter are their own, and the only power they seek is their own. They are wolves in wolves' clothing, masked thieves and bandits, seeking only to devour the life of the poor and profit from the fear of others. They are maggots and parasites at best, feeding off the isolation of addiction and broken families, and offering to replace any current frustration and anxiety with more misery and greater resentment." And that's a Catholic priest. Now check this out. Here is this brother, a sheriff in Florida named Daryl Daniels, the first black sheriff in Clay County's history. Listen to what this yahoo said about Black Lives Matter.
Hey folks, me and the men and women of the Clay County Sheriff's Office just want to weigh in on what we're seeing going on, played out across the media or mainstream media in this country. Look folks, don't fall victim to subjecting yourselves to this
All right, folks, not sure what's going on. I'm going to just go ahead and play this here from my iPad. So go ahead and take it here, please.
We're seeing going on, played out. Hey, folks, me and the men and women of the Clay County Sheriff's Office just want to weigh in on what we're seeing going on, played out across the media or mainstream media in this country. Look, folks, don't fall victim to subjecting yourselves to this conversation that law enforcement is bad, that law enforcement is the enemy of the citizens that we're sworn to protect and serve. We swore an oath. And in that oath, we swore to support, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States and the government. And that we're duly qualified under the state's Constitution to hold office. That is, for me as a sheriff, and for these men and women as deputy sheriffs. And we end that with, so help me God. But God is absent from the media's message or Black Lives Matter or any other group out there that's making themselves a spectacle, disrupting what we know to be our quality of life in this country. In Clay County, we have a great quality of life. We have a great relationship with our community. But across this country, not so much. I just wanted to take a stand with these men and with these women who feel the same way that I do. Lawlessness, that's unacceptable in this country. Lawlessness, that's unacceptable in Clay County. And if you threaten to come to Clay County and think that for 1 second that we'll bend our backs for you, you're sadly mistaken. I know what happens when lawlessness prevails. And in this day and time, God is raising up men and women, just like the folks you see standing behind me, who will have strong backbones and will stand in the gap between lawlessness and the good citizenry that we're sworn to protect and serve. So you can threat all you want. You can say, hey, let's go to Clay County, or let's go to some other peaceful county where their problems don't exist, or not so much like across this country, where relationships are great and not strained, and where the people support their sheriff and support the men and women who wear the uniform. And you'll have something waiting on you that you don't want. Yes, we'll protect your constitutional rights as long as you remain under the umbrella of peaceful protest or peaceful march. But the second that you step out from up under the protection of the Constitution, we'll be waiting on you. And we'll give you everything you want. All the publicity, all the pain, all the glamour and glory for all that 5 minutes will give you. Is it a threat? Absolutely not. But somebody has to step up in front of the camera and say, enough is enough. Tearing up Clay County, that's not going to be acceptable. And if we can't handle you, you know what I'll do? I'll exercise the power and authority as a sheriff, and I'll make special deputies of every lawful gun owner in this county. And I'll deputize them for this one purpose, to stand in the gap between lawlessness and civility. That's what we're sworn to do, and that's what we're gonna do. You've been warned.
Greg Carr, what the hell was that?
Well, I kind of feel bad for Brother Daniels. I don't know, you probably saw this. The state attorney in Florida is looking for independent. They stepped down looking for an independent prosecutor because they have an investigation. Apparently, a couple of years ago or last year, he ordered one of his deputies to arrest a sister he used to have a relationship with, who he accused of stalking. So he's used to kind of that kind of overhyped masculinist, use his gun and that big hat as an excuse to search for his masculinity approach. To see those guys standing there gap-legged with that kind of posturing look. I mean, this is the worst kind of practice of patriarchy. I mean, they're in the Jacksonville area. And so he says, we'll be waiting on you. Brother, you do a little bit of your history over there in that little county, because you'll find out that one of the natives of Jacksonville, James Weldon Johnson, he's the one who coined the term the Red Summer in 1919. Meaning what? You don't want to deputize. This cat said he deputized everybody in the county if you don't have enough deputies.
Right.
Well, if you deputize everybody, a bunch of them guns going to be black. You don't want it, Daniels. And in fact, you better go check that thing about that stalker you say you got, brother, because you got other problems in your own personal life. So anyway.
Reese, Greg talked about all those guys. I didn't see a single woman standing there. No women on that sheriff's department?
Yeah, I didn't. It was just so ridiculously macho and disturbing. And I think that they need to open up a pattern and practices investigation on that department, because clearly they got it completely messed up in terms of what their objective is. There is no once the constitutional right ends. There is no end to your constitutional rights. That's kind of the whole point of the Constitution. And so this whole machismo, as Dr. Carr put it, this perceived threat that doesn't actually exist. It doesn't sound like they've had any issues. This grandstanding, it's really pathetic and insecure, and it's dangerous. And, deputizing people is absolutely never a good thing. And he will have blood on his hands if people take him up on that offer. So they need to investigate him and everybody behind him, because something is really, really wrong and demented and almost demonic, I would say, about what we just saw.
All this stuff, Erica, God this and God that, and they are not this, and all this. Oh, it's not a threat. What? That is shameful conduct. That's a fake. You know what? That's a fake ass John Wayne racist. And then of course he looks like a broke ass Sheriff David Clark.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing.
All hat, as we say in Texas, all hat, no cattle.
Yep. Yeah, Uncle Ruckus has added another one to his fold. And along with Dr. Greg Carr is talking about, there is an open criminal investigation because the young lady that he'd been having an affair with for 6 years was a direct report. And he's talked about, having all of this media publicity. Well, he definitely does not need it, he himself, after having his marriage fall apart after this as well. And so, listen, all of this slave patrol talk that he's talking about, Clay County was named after a U.S. senator who did, in fact, have slaves. He's in a county that's about 81% white, and he's running for re-election, and there are 6 other names on the ballot. So this failed attempt to appeal to the Trump voter with the Uncle Ruckus crew, it's not going to work out for his favor. He definitely has other and bigger problems that lay ahead of him past this re-election season.
All right, folks, let's talk about a story of substance, and that is Maya Moore. This sister, WNBA star, college star, sat out an entire year in order to fight for the release of Jonathan Irons, a black man sent to prison at the age of 16, sentenced for 40 years for burglary and assault that he had nothing to do with. Well, folks, yesterday, after all the hard work of many others, including Maya, this happened.
Because that's another passion.
Can you hear it? Jonathan just walked out.
I'm already on the phone.
Oh my God!
God is good. All the time.
Catherine.
23 and some change. Okay, 22. Oh, okay. Oh, that's. Come on, man. What y'all doing, man? Y'all bring it in, man. What y'all doing? Y'all trying to get beat up? Give me some love. Come on. Love you, baby. Love you, baby, man. I wish you had to cut your tail out because I want to cut it. Come on, baby. What's up, young dog?
We made it.
What's up, baby?
I'll take it.
Baby? Okay, I was just checking.
It's done.
I was just checking. Okay, y'all.
How's it feel? Come here.
We made it.
How's it feel? Tell us, how's it feel? One sentence.
Life. I feel like I can live life now, man. I'm free. I'm blessed. I just want to live a life worthy. Live my life worthy of God's help and influence and just provision in my life, and He made this possible. I thank everybody that supported me, Maya and her family, and just to be home, to have somewhere to be home. I'm so grateful. I hope y'all got this here for the guys in the prison made this for me. It says hope, because they need that. The things that they're doing here in the prison, that they're trying to be positive changes and trying to help people. All my friends back there that I left behind, I feel like they got locked up, but I love them, and I'm not gonna forget them, and I'm gonna help the ones that I can. So thank y'all for coming. I appreciate it. Hey, Tony, why you didn't come see me? I said, come here, Tony. Come here.
On that note.
Erica, for all the praise that folks give LeBron James for what he does, for what they give the likes of other athletes, even Colin Kaepernick, this sister literally put her career aside to fight every day for this man's release.
Woo, yeah, that video gets me every time, because that is exercise a platform. When people talk about having a return to sports, we are in a moment that really does require that we actually look outside of ourselves and see what it is that we can be doing to improve the lives of our community. And that community extends to incarcerated bodies. Those incarcerated bodies, even in as relates to the census, when we look at the census, that there is a counting of those bodies to the facilities where they're housed, which are usually rural white communities. So there is a real fight of justice that we can all be doing, and that Maya actually gave her career and actually not only talk the talk, but walk the walk. And she did not do it with a lot of fanfare. She moved in silence and she moved stealthily. I so applaud, and it just reinforces to me that, you know, Black people are amazing, but absolutely Black women do lead.
Reese.
Absolutely. I mean, and lead with knowing that there's no cookie at the end of the tunnel, right? I mean, when you have people like Kim Kardashian who are lauded for their work, and you have other people, other athletes that are lauded for their work, and the Black woman that really power, even in the Kim Kardashian advocacy she does, Black lawyers, several Black lawyers power those cases that she's the face of. And so what Maya did is absolutely incredible. And to Erica's point, they had a long-term friendship. This wasn't something where, you know, a publicist handed her a case and said, hey, this will look good if you take this on. She actually had a long-term, decade-long friendship with Mr. Irons. And it's a heartwarming story, but also a tragic story because of the fact that the case was flimsy to begin with. He was misidentified. It was circumstantial. And the sentencing for somebody who was 16 years old at the time for 50 years, I mean, when the case started, for 50 years is excessive. And we know that that kind of sentence would never have been given to a white child, essentially, if that were the case. So there are so many reforms that have to happen so that we don't have to have these heartwarming cases where it's a happy ending after a decades-long incarceration. We need to reform the system so that we don't have these cases at all.
Greg.
Reese is absolutely right. Brother Irons, I mean, you spend that many years behind some bullshit. Come on. And his story is not an outlier. It's not unique. And in Maya Moore's case, you're right, Erica. I mean, Maya Moore is a two-time national NCAA champion in basketball at UConn. She is a league MVP. She won the league and the finals MVP. She's a four-time WNBA champion. She got 2 Olympic and FIBA gold medals. This is the top player in her sport and one of the top athletes in the world. So when Cheryl Reeve, her coach at the Lynx, said compared her to Muhammad Ali, that's not an outlying comparison. In fact, if she were a man, she'd be LeBron James. And if LeBron James had done that, we'd be talking about nothing else. Maya Moore, this is really part of her ministry. When she first did this, and remember now, this is the same Maya Moore who joined with her co-captains on the Lynx when Philando Castile and Alton Sterling got killed and wore those "Change Starts With Us" shirts. But when she first stepped away from the game at 28 years old, understand she's in the prime of her career as the best basketball player in the world, woman, and arguably, period. She said she used to quote, she did quote Colossians 3:23, because she has a deep Christian faith coming out of North Carolina, coming out of Georgia, Atlanta, where she was raised. She's saying, whatsoever we do, do it heartily, as to the Lord, and not unto man. Maya Moore is the real deal. Young people, women, men, anybody, sit your children down and look at that sister right there, because she's got her priorities in order.
Folks, you want to talk about bringing you the tears. I was driving in, and then, of course, I got an alert, and my man Reggie Hutland said, man, this ad hit me hard. And you want to talk about what we've been arguing, why the importance of this election? Watch this video.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States. So help me God.
Let the television burn, babe. There's a riot in the street.
If you have been waiting to break glass in case of emergency, we are there.
At their feet. We felt a change, but ain't it a shame how it all turned out?
You know what I am? I'm a nationalist.
It was a long time coming. It's a little late now.
I will teach my grandkids to hang on.
Stack up the dead till they block out the sun. These white boys with money make the whole world run.
Can anyone on the Republican side say unequivocally Black Lives Matter?
You and me, brother, we're the dangerous ones. You and me, brother, we're the
You should have known the longest. I got a daughter right here. She's 18 years old. 18. She's the first time voted. In my very first.
So let it burn, let it burn, let the motherfucker burn. It's election day.
We have to fight until the end, though, brother. We got to go down swinging.
We are the first generation to be able to say,
I guess it's gonna burn either way.
you can't tell me nothing.
Well, the shots been fired, but the war ain't won. These white boys with money better learn how to run. Oh, I'll hit you back, the blood hit your tongue. You and me, baby, we're the dangerous ones. You and me, baby, we're the dangerous ones.
My daughter said if I was 18, I would have been out there doing it, so get your butt out there and vote. She's 17. She's telling me what to do. So I had to do it. Black voters matter. That fed my spirit. You know what? I'm grateful that I came out. Because I matter.
That, Reese, is a powerful ad.
It is. I think that we've seen the media outside of obviously your show, Roland, which is why it's so valuable, kind of lose interest in this, just the fight of our lifetimes. And, you know, people are still out there in the streets. People are still fighting. And just new injustices are still occurring every day. We're learning about cases that are even a year or so old or, you know, months old, like Elijah McClain. And so we cannot let our foot up off the gas. We cannot take our eyes off the prize. We have to remove the white nationalist in chief from the office, if for no other reason, because COVID-19 is not letting up off of us, and he has no intentions whatsoever to do a damn thing about it. We have to remove him. We have to remove Mitch McConnell. We have to make sure that the Republicans do not have a majority. We have to make sure that the House that Democrats hold on to the House. We have to get as many Republicans out across the country as possible, because they have abdicated their duty to put Americans first, Americans of all backgrounds. And so please stay motivated, please stay safe, but please keep up the fight.
Erica, you were crying on the Mom Moore deal. That video there will certainly cause you to be teary-eyed.
Yeah, I mean, it really does kind of capture when we just think about even from May 25th to where we are now, but largely where Black people have been for a number of years. And along the point that Reese made around really voting and really just keeping that at the forefront, one of the things, kind of these discussions that are kind of springing up around the lesser of two evils and looking at Biden's record. When we look at those folks that are in executive leadership, particularly in the South and other states, look at what they're doing. Look at what the hell is happening in Georgia. Look at what is happening in Arizona. Look at what's happening in South Dakota. These Republicans have been very clear, and they keep telling you from their places on Senate Intelligence Committees, they're telling you this as we have learned around Donald Trump knowing about the bounties of Afghanistan soldiers, where we know now at least 3 Marines were killed as a result of this, and not doing a damn thing about it. That Republicans do not give a damn about you. It does not matter if you're Black, white, or other. They don't give a damn. They care about power and money and making appearances on Fox News. And so if people want to live beyond this COVID time, beyond summer, beyond November 3rd, we have to exercise that very, very sacred power that we all have, and that is at the ballot box.
Bottom line, Greg, is real simple. You can sit here and yell, complain all you want to, but if you don't vote, you cannot change what's happening.
That's right, and it's not either or. Erica just laid it out. I hope everybody heard that loud and clear. I tell my students all the time, there is no such thing as the United States of America as one nation. It is a state with a lot of different competing interests in it, and that was a very powerful ad. But, you know, I love how they really try to salvage that American flag. But as the lyrics of the song said, as the guy was singing, let the motherfucker burn. I mean, the sister said, you know, our generation is the one to say, no. Every generation has said that, sis. And so when that little message at the end said, we're almost there, that is not true. We are not almost there. They going to the Supreme Court to attack Obamacare because they realize that when COVID surges again, these insurance companies can say they're not going to give you insurance because you have a pre-existing condition. They just took $25 million out of the school police, LA Unified today, and the police chief of the school police resigned, said, I can't defend people. Let's be very clear. This is July. Donald Trump isn't guaranteed to be the person to run for office. What if the Republicans decide, you know what? Let's throw him overboard. He's unsustainable. And they put Mike Pence in. Pence said, I'm a Christian, meaning I'm a white nationalist. I'm a conservative, and I'm a Republican in that order. There is no United States except in this fantasy of a unified place. But Roland, as you had us do last year, what to the slave is the 4th of July. Frederick Douglass called it in 1852. The only thing you get in this society is what you fight for. And that sister in Louisville with her daughter standing there, she said the mother was kind of near tears. Right. But you see that look on that young sister's face? That's the look of somebody who's going to get free. No, we are not almost there. And we got to press this down. This gas got to go all the way to the floor. Otherwise, there won't be a there to get to, almost or otherwise.
All right, folks, before we go to a break, Lamont Owen College, the only HBCU in Memphis, Tennessee, has been named the beneficiary of an endowment of $40 million, one of the largest gifts to any HBCU and the largest for the school in its 158-year history. The endowment was created from assets from the Community Foundation of Greater Memphis, an organization that works to strengthen the community through philanthropy. The college is located in one of the poorest zip codes in the country. Without it, many residents in the surrounding community would not have a college education. The first black mayor of Memphis, Willie Harrington, held this, first of all, of course, he held the seat for 16 years, graduated Lamont Owen, and in fact, I also gave a commencement speech to that school, so that is absolutely great, and it's what I keep saying to people. If you want to change what's happening, we've got to be demanding these various foundations and these corporations give these type of investments to our HBCUs. I'm not interested in 1 million, 2 million, 5 million. No, I'm talking 40, 50 million, 100 million, 1 billion. We're going to talk more about that next week. You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it.
Hey everybody, this is Sherry Shepherd. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered, and while he's doing Unfiltered, I'm practicing the wobble. Yes, I am. Because Roland Martin's the one, he will do it backwards, he will do it on the side. He messes everybody up when he gets into the wobble, because he doesn't know how to do it, so he does it backwards. And it messes me up every single time. So, I'm working on it. I got it. You got Roland Martin.
Hi, my name is LaToya Luckett, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Mac Wiles, and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
What's up, y'all? It's Ryan Destiny, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
What up, Lana Well, and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Hey fam, want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered, the blackest show on all of digital, cable, and broadcast. Check out our audio podcast. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. Press play.